This podcast is part of E2C Network, where we share the whole Auburn experience.
War Eagle Auburn fans, welcome to No Huddle, your source for Auburn football news and discussion, part of the E2C Network. I'm AJ Richardson. I'm also here with Jared Davis. It's the pig suey hog thingamabobs that, honestly, it's a terrible mascot. I don't understand why they're that, but, we're Tigers. I think Tigers are not scared of hogs, even the feral ones, let's be honest. If you have a mascot battle like Mike Leach loves to do, and sad he's gone, so I'm going to give you one. Tigers, they got the fangs of a vampire. They're going to come after that razorback, bite its neck, rip it to shreds. The end. Done. All right, there we go. That was my little homage to Mike Leach.
There's nothing else that needs to be said.
Love it. I mean, we all love a good mascot matchup, so there you go. Anyway, so that's a fun way to start this podcast. I did want to talk about, Arkansas, because Arkansas, up until this last week, I was just like, all right, let's go in. Let's just get that win, move on at Arkansas. Arkansas gave me a little bit more to think about. So they went down to Gainesville, played Florida, had a big overtime win down there this last week. I think they carry a lot of momentum from that. Now, I don't know if that necessarily saves Sam Pittman's job at all. I've heard, his buyout goes down a lot, I think by half, if he doesn't have a winning season. So they're probably not getting 6 wins, more than likely, this season. So I don't know what the players' headspace is at this point. They fired their offensive coordinator just a few weeks ago. It just looks like a kind of a dysfunctional, generally, a team. But hey, they put it together against Florida, and that makes me think twice about this game. A little bit more than I thought about it even just last week. So any other kind of general thoughts about Arkansas and what you've seen so far from them this season?
No, I'm kind of with you. They lost at home, I believe, 7-3 to Mississippi State. And you're like, okay, that one's it's on the road, but we probably can win it. And then they go on the road and beat Florida. Now, I will say, I think we're learning more and more that Florida's not real good. But we're not either. We're not great. I think we're better than Florida, honestly, but we're not great. And so, there's still just no room for error. I think if we go out there and play our best game that we can play, I think we win the ball game. But it is very possible we go out there and not play our best game. And then at that point, what happens? I don't know.
Yeah. Also, if you look at Arkansas, which Auburn should definitely take them seriously. They've had some really close losses. They lost to BYU by just a touchdown. They lost to LSU by 3 points. They lost to Ole Miss by 7 points. Only to 3 points to Alabama. 4 points to Mississippi State. They've had some really close games, and you got to think Auburn and Arkansas are going to have another close one. So fans, strap in, because that's probably the way it's going to go down. It's going to be closer than you think it should be, but that's just the way Arkansas is. And it's kind of like the margin of error, which our former coach Brian Harsin learned this. The margin of keeping your job and winning football games is so slim at this level. And right now, Arkansas is not doing that except last week against Florida. So does that mean they're putting things together? I don't think so, personally. Shouldn't be straight up with you. I don't think it is. But that just means that they can fight. And if Auburn doesn't come out fighting, we could come out of Fayetteville with some stuff. We could lose. So anyway, right now Auburn is kind of the underdog. Even by what Las Vegas has said, by 3 points. So that kind of gives you perspective on where they're looking at Auburn in relationship to Arkansas. So another kind of aspect of this is, KJ Jefferson. He's been there a long time at Arkansas. He wants to win. And you can see it if you watch any of that Florida versus Arkansas game. KJ Jefferson took the game into his own hands. He put his body on the line, and I still have a little bit of trauma from, I forget if it was last year or the year before when we played Arkansas, and it felt like Auburn's defense was playing against like Cam Newton, and Cam Newton was just running all over us, but it was KJ Jefferson. So like KJ Jefferson is a man. He's a big dude. You got to tackle the dude. If you can't tackle KJ Jefferson, you're not winning that game. So I'm sure the coaches are preaching that as well. So lots of, again, very winnable, but you got to battle. And this, I'm sure, will be a battle. Let's jump into our players to watch for Auburn. Who are you going to be watching, Jared, on offense for Auburn this game?
Man, I don't know. I mean, I feel like we've gone through all the players. I try to make it somebody different every time, but if I'm being honest, I think it's gonna go. I think it all runs through Peyton Thorne. I mean, does he go out there and play like the Peyton Thorne at California, or does he go out there and play like the Peyton Thorne at Vanderbilt? And I think if he goes out there, he looked like deer in the headlights at Cal. But to be fair, that was the second game in an Auburn uniform.
and the game started at what, 9 o'clock his time? Like that's late.
Yeah, I mean, I really feel like we're gonna. I think we're gonna look back and be like, hey, those first 5 to 7 games were just him and the receivers not on the same route, not on the same page, because we've all talked about forever. The guy threw over 6,000 yards in the Big Ten. Yep. I mean, like, you don't just forget how to play football. I'm not saying he's Cam Newton, but we're seeing a little more now of, okay, this guy knows how to play football, and, does he carry that into a true road environment, which is a pretty tough place to play. And so that's I'm keeping an eye on him. I mean, I want to say receivers because they're a huge part of that, but I think if Thorne plays the way he did the last 2 weeks, I think we win.
Yeah, he has improved, and he played well at Vandy. Though I don't think it was as as crazy of an away game as probably any of the others that we've faced, but still progress and movement in the right direction for Peyton. One player that I saw a step back in a little bit was Fairweather. He did get a touchdown last game, but his 2 drops, and that doesn't seem like that's who he is. I mean, you got to think he's going to clean that up. So, going to be watching him. Kind of honorary mention. I think it's the obvious. Jarquez Hunter. He's on fire. He's picking up blocks. He's running the ball hard. He's doing all the things that you ask him to do, and he's getting the reps. So, that's I feel like that's something generally for this offense. How does the offense play together? Against a decent Arkansas defense. So lots to kind of be watching on offense. Who's going to be your player on defense for Auburn to be for this game against Arkansas?
I think it's going to be the edge rushers, and that's Falk and McLeod, and
yep.
Because the thing with a mobile quarterback is if you set the edge, that kind of you want to force them to like have to stay in the pocket. Don't give them an outside lane. So I think that's key. You got lane discipline is key. On the edge is key. So I'm going to keep an eye on those guys because that's going to be, if you may, and Jefferson can throw the ball, but you can't let him also run. If he's doing both, it's going to be trouble. So you gotta take away one of those aspects, and I think it starts with those edge guys.
I mean, I was just looking back at the last game where they beat Florida. KJ Jefferson almost had 100 yards rushing on 17 carries. So, I mean, that's got to be part of their recipe of getting a win, is getting KJ Jefferson to run the ball. And he will run the ball. There's going to be times where you're just like, tackle him. And he's going to be hard to tackle. You're going to have to really man up and just body tackle the dude. You can't arm tackle him.
AJ, do you yell at your TV sometimes? I never do that. I don't know what you're talking about.
Never. I'm the most calm, peaceful person. I look like I'm in a trance when I'm watching Auburn Just
I'm always very, very calm and always agree with every coaching decision and player decision
yeah, for
throughout
sure.
the whole game.
100%, 100%. I am lockstep with the coaches and the players. Love
Yeah,
it.
without a doubt.
Oh man, the things we put ourselves through in sports, you know.
It makes zero sense that we
It
allow
does.
this to, have an effect on our life, but we do, and here we are.
I know. I think it's for some of us, more ingrained than others, and man, for us that it's ingrained, it's tough, man, sometimes. But if we get a win, it makes it feel a little bit better. I'm gonna be watching on defense just because, like, I want to see if Austin Keys can step it up again. I've had kind of low expectations of him. He was our leading tackler, got a lot of great, or not leading tackler. Yeah, he was. No. Sorry, that was. I'm sorry, I'm getting confused. That was DJ. Or wow, I am messing.
So DJ
up.
had 7. DJ James
DJ
had 7.
James, you got it. But Austin Keys had the best grade. So like, I want to see Austin Keys. Can he keep that up? Because we all know Eugene Asante and where he's at. But can we have some extra linebackers step up? So, special teams. Who are you going to be watching, Jared?
I think it's got to be McPherson, and it's just on kickoffs. That's key. Like, you can't. Let's say we defer to the second half again, and he goes out there and kicks it out of bounds. You do not want to give Jefferson the ball at the 45-yard line.
I think it's 35, but it's still
35.
like,
My bad, 35. But you don't want to give them that. That you want to set the tone that first drive on defense or offense, and that is not a good way to do that.
For sure. I'm going to call it because I want Betty to finally get one. He was so close. Going back to Betty, like, golly, please, Betty, please. Everybody else in the kickoff team, I understand it's not just Betty, like, running the kickoff, but, like, come on, guys. Give him just a house call. Like, please. I want at least one this year. And this might be a game to do it. So, let's get into our score predictions. Preseason, you and I had us winning by 3. Jared, you had Arkansas winning by 6. I know a lot has transpired, a lot of different stuff that's happened over this year. Arkansas hasn't been as good. Auburn's on an upswing right now. But how are you feeling about that? Do you think we have more of a shot now than we did when you were doing this preseason?
Yeah, I mean, I can't believe because I'm still worried about the road game, but I think I'm going to flip that. I think I'm going to pick Auburn by 6 now.
Yeah, I mean, 6 points. Again, looking back at Arkansas's games in this season, 3 to 7 points is pretty reasonable that they've lost a lot of these close games. And I have building hope. It's not a complete 100%. Like, I trust these coaches, but it's building. I'm building the hope and seeing more success that this coaching staff puts our guys in good places. And the more we do that, the more, I think we can win these closer games, which I think this is going to be a closer game. I'm going to stick with my gut, just say we're going to win by 3, because I think it's going to be closer than most Auburn fans want it to be. If we can somehow, with, just a few minutes left, have, score a touchdown, go up by 10, and then Arkansas drives down and scores a touchdown. Okay, whatever. We still win by 3. I think that's a pretty reasonable goal and expectation for this. Really just any kind of win. I mean, I think I mentioned it already. Las Vegas already has Arkansas winning this by 3 points. And if you look at ESPN's predictor, they're kind of saying about the same thing. Arkansas is going to win just by a slim margin. So tough, but I think we can do it. And I think there's a lot of optimism rising. It kind of feels like a little bit of the kind of the home stretch, like with Cadillac last year. Like, the hope was rising again. And the fan base, after 4 losses, started to get a little down. Now we're starting to rise back up, and you're seeing the potential of this team. So let's transition to our final topic of the day, an Auburn fan perspective of the SEC. There were some pretty good matchups this week. I got to watch a handful. So I'll just bring up a handful. Ole Miss, number 10, barely beat out Texas A&M. Again, margins in the SEC are tight. But think about this. Texas A&M, it has the exact same record as Auburn right now, and they're paying their coach way more than Auburn is, and yet they still get the same results. Here's another crazy stat. I saw this one floating around from a few different people. Compare where Jimbo Fisher is right now, 69 games into the season. Compare that to what Kevin Sumlin, their previous coach, was at. Jimbo Fisher is now 3 games behind Kevin Sumlin. So all that money, Texas money, ain't doing crap for them. So I just want to call that out because I don't think they're going to fire Jimbo, but the results are not adding up. So just love to see it, especially after them getting some high recruiting classes, which, let's be honest, it will start picking up, but I still have yet to see it. One of Ole Miss's, they had 2 crazy plays in this game. So one of them, I'll start with this good positive for Ole Miss. Their wide receiver looked like Odell Beckham Jr. If you just go watch any of their highlights, it was incredible. Sideline catch, it was nuts. Again, why can't Auburn do that even with 2 hands? I don't understand, but they did it with 1. So, Texas A&M. So this is kind of the other side of it. Texas A&M player, he literally punched the Ole Miss player. I don't know if you want to go look at that, but he punched him right where it hurts, and that was just a low blow. Thankfully, that player for Texas A&M got ejected. Very interesting. Very interesting. So, hey, Ole Miss, look at them. They're looking pretty good. They're 8-1. I'd be scared to play Ole Miss if we played them again. Now, I think we'd have a better shot, but yeah. And then a couple others for this week. Tennessee beat UConn. No surprise there. We've already talked about Arkansas beating Florida by 3. South Carolina almost got beat by Jacksonville State. What? I had to look at that. I had to look at that twice.
Yeah, he'll be fine this year, but he's gonna have to put some things together next year, man. They're struggling.
Right. Well, and I think they're holding on hope. I've talked to some South Carolina fans, and they're holding on hope that the recruiting will start to pick up. The play on the field, because they're getting some pretty good recruits. It's just the putting the product on the field that's becoming hard for them to do. And then one of the marquee games, Georgia, number 2, they were facing Missouri. They only beat them by 9 points. Missouri, even towards the end of the game, had some hope. Though really in the fourth quarter, it was all Georgia. And I'm going to say this, kind of hindsight's 2020. If this game was in Missouri, I think this game Missouri wins. That's how good Missouri played that game. And that's pretty impressive considering, Georgia and where they're at. But Missouri put up a good fight, and again shows Georgia is not invincible. And who knows? I'm genuinely hoping that somehow they start losing some, but I don't think it's gonna happen. They do have a tough finish to the season. Now they've got Ole Miss, which again they're on fire right now, but it is in Athens. But I feel like Georgia. It's weird. I feel like Georgia hasn't played as good at home this season.
I think they do beat Ole Miss. I think they lose in Knoxville. I think that's their only loss of the year. I said it to some buddies about, 6 weeks ago when Tennessee looked a little better, but I still think Tennessee is good enough in Knoxville, and Georgia is not as dominant as they have been. And at some point you're going to lose a ball game. I mean, they've gone a very long time. Maybe it's hoping they do, but I really just think that I don't think they're so far ahead right now that you're just going to roll through and beat everybody. Knoxville is going to be ready, and I think that's the game that gets them. But I don't think they lose any others. I think Georgia Tech will give them fits, but
yeah, I don't think that's going to keep them out of the playoffs.
They'll still be in Atlanta, and if they win, now I will say this: the one thing it could do is if somebody gets them in the regular season and then they lose in Atlanta, they're done. Whereas if they only lost in Atlanta, they're probably still in. So
right. So you could see. I mean, again, if a couple of things kind of shake out the right way, some team like Ole Miss or something sneaking in there, if the cards kind of are dealt the right way for them. Kentucky, they dominated Mississippi State. I mean, Mississippi State's down right now. Again, guys, it's okay. We still beat Mississippi State. It was a good win, but Mississippi State is really tough right now. They're kind of in rebuild year, switching from the air raid over to what they're doing now. It's Auburn fans, we're kind of in that place right now. It's rebuild. So a lot of Mississippi State fans right now are a little down on that team, but I think they'll start coming back. And then to finish it out, the game of the century, part 7, or however many they've had where they call it the game of the century. It's ridiculous. LSU versus Alabama. We all know how hyped this game is. It was pretty hyped for about 3 quarters, and then Alabama, they stopped LSU and never looked back around the end of like the third quarter, fourth quarter time frame. Alabama just started running away with it, ended up winning 42-28. Alabama, I mean, as good as they are, again, another team that could kind of sneak in there like Ole Miss. If they play their hand right, they beat Auburn in the Iron Bowl, they got a good shot at kind of making their bid at, hey, we should be in the SEC, or not SEC championship, into the playoffs. So, yeah, that's kind of all on the table for them right now. So, any other thoughts before we get out of here?
The only thought I have about that game is I think LSU's defense is really bad, and it's kind of bad that we didn't do more against that. I mean, LSU, they were putting up points too until Jaden Daniels got hurt against Bama, but Alabama had zero resistance moving down the field, and even them, I mean, even the announcers were like, Bama's hoping this game is to keep it in the 20s. Nobody thought Bama was gonna be outscore them, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that just shows how bad Bama had a great game plan, but I think LSU's defense is really bad.
Yeah, and I feel like both offenses obviously very good, but it was going to be a matter of which aspect of one of those teams is the weakest. And I think the weakest spot was LSU's defense, and Bama took a hold of that and started just running with it. So
yeah, for sure.
I did notice the Bama kicker missed a couple of field goals, and so it just got me thinking he's getting practice for missing some Iron Bowl kicks. So
I'm telling you, man, as good as Bama looked yesterday, I'm still sticking to my if we beat Arkansas, I think we beat Bama. That's my thought.
You gotta think I mean, again, it's wild to me, but it's again on coaching. We were kind of down in the dirt, tough. It was feeling low. Us fans, I'm sure, like we all were feeling low. But think about the players. Like you go through a 4-game losing streak, that's tough, and you got to think you're fighting out of this. Like, and these players are feeling it. I mean, if you see any of those post game, like these players are feeling good. They're feeling like they can do what they need to get a good bowl at the end of the season and maybe do something crazy against Alabama. And if you have that feeling, again, sometimes, especially these Iron Bowl rivalry kind of games, anything can happen. We all know that. And it's just a matter of who wants it more. So I give us a lot of hope for that.
6-6 or 8-4. There ain't no 7-5. That's my call.
Again, I'd be, at this point, I'm fine with 6-6, but I would love to get to that. If we can get to somehow like 8-4, oh my gosh! Like Auburn's kind of the comeback team of the year, at least in the second half of the season. So you'd love to see it. So, Jared, before we get out of here, how can the people stay in touch with you?
You can find me on Facebook under my name, Jared Davis.
And you can find me on X at @JAY_. It's always great to be an Auburn Tiger and War Eagle.
War Eagle.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode on the E2C Network. On your way out, I want to remind you to stop by e2cnetwork.com. It's your one-stop shop for all our content across our podcast, YouTube channel, and much more. To stay up to date with us, make sure you're following social media accounts such as Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. While our content here may always be Auburn sports heavy, if it's orange and blue, it's what we do. War Eagle.